This is Jack Moelmann, and today is the 6th of July 2012. We're at the Los Angeles Airport Marriott Hotel as part of the 2012 American Theater Organ Society Annual Convention. And we just finished the banquet down there, and we had the opportunity of seizing this person to interview and see what he has to say. His name is Jerry Nagano. In times past, he was known as Gerald Nagano. I've personally known him since about 1970 or so. And so let's see what we can find out from Jerry about his musical career as an organist. First of all, welcome, Jerry.
Thank you, Jack.
When did you first get interested in music?
I was probably about 8 years old, and I started playing the trumpet. I took lessons on trumpet, played in elementary school band, junior high school band, until that fateful day when I was told you need braces. And so the trumpet playing sort of came to an end, and I took up playing the piano a little bit.
Then what?
I played piano a little bit, sort of half-heartedly taking lessons. And then one day my dad got one of these small Sears Silvertone electronic organs, because my mom played piano for Sunday school and occasionally played the organ for church. And I was fascinated by it, all the various sounds that this instrument could make. So I was immediately attracted to it. At the time, I guess I was just had started junior high school. I was fascinated with the organ, and the other thing that I liked was to play basketball. Now, considering that now in my adult age I'm only 5'9", it's probably a good thing that I play the organ.
So, when was this that you got serious with the organ?
I'd been taking lessons on the organ. I was in junior high school. And then, all of a sudden, it was a way of combining both of the things I was interested in. When we went to, I grew up in Los Angeles, and when we would go to see the Los Angeles Lakers, the basketball team, my dad and his friends would get more expensive seats down by the court, and I would get a general admission seat and sit up next to the organ loft. And it happened that Gaylord Carter was the organist for the Los Angeles Lakers, so I'd watch Gaylord play the organ and enjoy the basketball game. And then one fateful day, my mom was looking through the Los Angeles Times, and she said, "Oh, there is a motion picture that will be screened downtown." And it was filmed in the hometown where she grew up of El Centro. Do you want to go? I'd like to go see the movie and see if there are any scenes of El Centro that she might have remembered. And as an aside, she says, "Oh, and Gaylord Carter, the man that plays the organ for the Lakers, will be playing the organ." So I thought, that sounds interesting. Let's go check this out. So we go down to the Wiltern Theater, and my first impression was pretty much like what most people first impressions are. The console rises from the orchestra pit, 4-manual Kimball organ. You hear that deep rumbling sound of the bass and the vibrant sound that just fills the entire theater. It was just a captivating night, and Gaylord played movies, and it was just great fun. And all of a sudden, playing the organ now went to the front burner. It caught my interest. This organ sounded so much different than the electronic organs that I had heard and played. And so that sparked the interest for, probably 3-4 months. And then, like a lot of things, out of sight, out of mind, it moved to the back burner. And about 6 months later, my dad said, "We're going to an organ concert." Some friends from work had got tickets. So here we go on Monday evening to the small little neighborhood house. Pretty ugly looking theater. It only had a 2-manual black organ console in the orchestra pit, no elevator, nothing fancy at all. And I was fortunately still junior high school age, which is young enough that I still knew everything. And I remember sitting there in the theater, in a small little neighborhood house, nothing like the Wiltern, and I pointed to the organ and said, "Dad, this organ only has 2 keyboards. The other one had 4. Do you think this could be really any good?" And my dad, being a very wise man, said, well, Dick and Ginny went through a lot of trouble to get us tickets, and they say this man is pretty good, so we should give him a chance. And I remember distinctly sitting there in the theater seat with my arms folded across my chest thinking, I dare you to entertain me. Clenched jaw and all, until the theater darkened and they announced, please welcome to the Rialto Theater, the incomparable George Wright.
And that did it.
It did it. I didn't know much about a theater organ, but I was going, how did he do that? How did he do that? How did he make that sound? How did he get that effect on this little tiny organ? So the theater organ was again on the front burner for quite a while. I remember we walked out of the theater with 9 records. Every title he had, we got.
Well, who did you have as a teacher?
I had one of the teachers from the local Hammond organ studio at the time. She didn't play the pipe organ. She mainly knew the Hammond. And then the third event that came about, I had found a group of local kids in the San Gabriel Valley, and it was a club known as the Benchwarmers. There were about 12, 15 kids, anywhere from about 12 to maybe 18. And we would go to each other's homes, play the home organ. We would go have barbecues on the beach. We would have pool parties. And then when there was an organ concert, we'd all go as a group. And we would sit in the front row, right behind the console. And they said, there's going to be a small regional convention. They're dedicating a new Wurlitzer organ at the San Gabriel Civic Auditorium. So we went and sat in the front row, and I had a chance to hear Lynn Larson play. And the interesting thing was that Gaylord and George were older at the time, and here was Lynn playing the organ, a young man, and that sort of sparked the idea, oh, well, maybe this could be a young man's game as well. Maybe I should look into this, playing these theater organs. And so that's what started the quest of playing the Wurlitzer organ in earnest.
Well, I remember back about 1971 or 72, I was the organist at a Shakey's Pizza Parlor in Anaheim, and some of you young children, if you will, came by. Names come to mind: Donna Parker, you, Candy Carley, and some others I don't remember where they went. And I think I'd let you play.
Yes.
And so maybe I was some sort of inspiration, but that was your first exposure to pizza restaurant. Did that help you at all?
It was. I actually had a chance to play a pipe organ, which is quite different than the Hammond I had at home. It had that big sound that we've all come to love about the theater organ. So yes, to actually sit down and play one hands-on, that was a big thing.
Well, you've done concerts around. What's the most exciting concert program, whatever, that you've done so far in terms of both maybe the organ, maybe the audience, maybe the venue? What's the most exciting thing that you can say, this was just wonderful?
I think it would have to be the first time I played the Rochester Auditorium in New York. It was my first out-of-town big concert gig. It was in September, and I remember I practiced the entire summer working up this program, and then going back to New York, Rochester, New York, to play this on the wonderful Wurlitzer organ that they have. And I think just because it's the first time out of town, that it was just amazingly exciting. A little, very, very frightening, but very, very exciting. And that's the one that I think you always remember that. I certainly do.
What, let's take it to the other extreme. What is the one thing that you've done, public program, if you will, or maybe even a chapter meeting or something, that was just a complete disaster? You hope it never happens again, and sort of explain what happened. You don't have to name the place unless you want.
I'll name the place. In fact, I think you were there. It was the first time I played in public. It was at the Wiltern Theater, the very place I heard Gaylord play a movie. And of course, because
That's in, the Wiltern Theater is in,
Los Angeles.
yeah.
And so, because Gaylord was a big influence in those early days, I told him that for my part, I wanted to play a movie. And so I got a silent film to play. And my part of this, it was a program that had, maybe 6 organists on there. And my part was to play the silent movie.
Stars of Tomorrow,
That's right.
headed by Deke Warner.
Deke Warner. And so when it came time for my part, I played an opening number, brought the console up, and I announced the film. I pushed the down
Lizzies
button.
of the
It was
Field.
Lizzies of the Field. And I started playing the fanfare, and much to my horror, the film was running backwards and upside down. Now, as much of a horror as I had on the console, the projectionist, I'm sure, nearly had a heart attack. And that was my dad. Because it was a silent film, there are sprocket holes on both sides of the film. And it's possible to load it upside down and backwards. And so...
And he managed.
And he managed, yes. So
I remember going down and trying to help him with it.
that's right.
I remember you, from the orchestra pit, you yelled, Deke, help!
That's right, I did.
So that was it. Finally got it going.
Finally got it going. The film went fine. And now that I look back into it in retrospect, even though it was a really big shock when that film came on upside down, I had to do some quick tap dancing. And I guess...
But it taught you to deal with unexpected things.
I had to think on my feet, and I guess it'll show you what lengths I would do to get to play an extra number, too.
Okay, let's try this. What place haven't you played that you would aspire to say, I've achieved it? You know, of all the organs or venues in the U.S., where do you really want to play that you, when you've done that, you can say, I've arrived?
Oh, good question. I've
I
played...
don't ask bad ones.
Yeah, of course. I've played quite a few venues in the U.S. and a couple in Canada. I've never played anything out of North America, neither Australia or England.
Well, let's just deal with the U.S.
Okay. Good question. I've never played anything in the South. I've played things in the Midwest, in the Pacific Northwest, and on the East.
Any particular place? Fox Theater in Atlanta?
Fox, Birmingham. I've always liked the Birmingham Theater.
Yeah. So that's where you want to go.
That would be nice.
And that's something to look forward to. What would be your advice to... We don't know who's watching these videos. Anybody can watch it by accident. Somebody that just tuned into it could be somebody that doesn't know anything, or somebody that knows some things about the theater organ. What would be your advice based on your experience to encourage them to either start into the theater organ music business or continue doing what would be your advice to help this cause along?
I've had a great time. I've known a lot of the theater organ people from my times in probably starting in high school and my college age. Most of the people here at the convention, I've known that many years. And they're just dear, wonderful friends all across the country. Whenever I go either to a convention, I know people from all around the land. If I go play a concert in one of those cities, I know that I always have some friends that I've met many, many years before. So you'll meet a great bunch of people that have like passions, very much like your own. As an organist, if you learn how to play, it's a wonderful way of self-expression. I remember when I lived at home, my dad could always tell within about the first measure whether I was in a good mood or a bad mood. My feelings pretty much show through my music. And as far as a bit of advice for maybe those people that aspire to be a player, and it was a bit of advice that was handed to me, and that's always be an original.
Don't copy.
If you hear something that someone else does that's really great, that's excellent. But I would encourage you to take the idea and sort of internalize it and see how you could apply it and maybe change it a little bit, adapt it to your own, rather than trying to copy the other person note for note. So always be an original.
Well, that's good, Jerry. I think it's been great getting with you at the convention. Of course, we've seen one another before at other conventions. And so I think we'll sign off here and let you get back to whatever you're going to do tonight after the banquet. So we've had with us Jerry Nagano, live and in living color, as somebody famous used to say. That was Chuck Miller. July 6th, 2012, we're here at the Los Angeles Airport Marriott Hotel as part of the American Theater Organ Society annual convention. So best wishes in what you do in your future, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thanks, Jack.